State Properties Committee meeting, and there is a sign-up sheet. Anybody that's interested in speaking today on this bill, please sign up to speak. We want to give everybody an opportunity, and we'll make sure we hear from you. So we won't know you want to speak if you don't sign up. We do have a quorum, so we can go ahead and get started. Members, if you have questions, Debbie, do me a favor. Swing this way just a little bit so you can. We'll put Rusty right here. Yeah. Members, if you have questions, just indicate that you do, and remember to grab a microphone and turn it on. I'm sure people in the room will be able to hear you, but people streaming online need to be able to hear you as well. So make sure you grab a microphone and turn it on if you have questions or comments. Please turn the microphone back off, though, when you get through, because if we get 2 or 3 on at a time, we usually end up with feedback. Senator, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Have a seat if you would. And we're going to be looking at Senate Bill 172. Just pull your microphone up and turn it on, and share with us what you have with Senate Bill 172.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm honored to be before you this afternoon. I come to you today to present to you Senate Bill 172. Now, I am not the primary author of this bill. The primary author is Senator Emanuel Jones. Senator Jones is in Brazil as we speak on a trade mission representing Georgia. The trade mission is inviting business people, business leaders from across this country and from across the world to Brazil to talk about international trade, international business, and how we can work together. So while he's away in Brazil, I have the dubious task of presenting his legislation, and he should be back on the 38th day, and he would like to see his bill on the floor. So,
can I just add, after spending time in the House with me, I am very confident in your ability to carry the water for Senator Jones today.
Well, Mr. Chairman, thank you, but I offered to go to Brazil to speak on his behalf. I offered to go to Brazil for 10 days to speak in his behalf, and I told him the same thing. I'm very confident I can do the job. You know, talk about trade and talk about whatever you talk about on the beaches of Brazil.
I understand. I understand.
But I come before you to present Senate Bill 172. This bill needs no physical note. It is no cost to the state. It simply provides for a civil rights museum as a division of the Capitol, of the Georgia's Capitol Museum. Right now, we have a Georgia's Capitol Museum. We want a division of the Georgia's Capitol Museum, or we want the Civil Rights Museum to fall under the umbrella of the Georgia's Capitol Museum. And the purpose of such museum is to pay tribute and to highlight the accomplishments of prominent leaders in the civil rights movement, such as Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, Joseph Lowery, Andrew Young, John Lewis, and there are many, many more. But we just want a museum. It could be located inside or outside the Capitol to pay tribute to these true public servants. Now, this will not happen if there aren't outside money being raised. So we just want to, if they should raise some money, they're looking for a monument or some place to pay tribute to outstanding Georgians. I take any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thanks, Senator. First of all, let me say that certainly these are citizens in Georgia that have made an incredible mark, not only on Georgia but on our country, and there's no denying or debating that fact. Let me ask you a little bit. What do you have? What do you have in mind? You mentioned at the end a monument. Do you have in mind a monument, or do you have in mind? Have y'all thought about what it will look like?
No, we have not yet. Right now, part of the Capitol statues around our building, there is a monument for for African American leaders right now, and we have a little plot right now. What we wanted to looking at using that same plot, if funds become available to pay tribute to strong leaders in the civil rights movement. So we have no idea now if this should pass. We will begin raising money to create such a figure and some sort of tribute to these great Americans.
So you're thinking about outside the Capitol, some monuments or statues outside of the Capitol. Is that what you have in mind?
Right, a monument outside the Capitol per the Georgia Capitol Museum approval. Okay, we will give them a model of some sort of monument. We would like to be outside or inside the Capitol.
Mm-hmm. They
will approve it, and once it's approved, we will raise money to erect it and pay for it. Last year, we established the Civil Rights Commission, and the Civil Rights Commission looks at monuments and as a nonprofit group that will go out and raise money for such monuments or tributes.
Have y'all had conversations with the Capitol Museum about this?
Now, Senator Jones has.
Okay.
I have not. It's to my knowledge. I believe someone here from the Capitol Museum is here. Right.
I'm going to speak to
You're with the Board of Regents. You're speaking on behalf of the Capitol Museum.
Well, I'm with the University of Georgia, and if y'all remember, a couple of years ago, by legislation, the Capitol Museum.
Okay, let's do this.
Okay.
If it's okay with you, let's talk a little bit more of the senator, and then we'll bring you up. Okay.
No, I have not talked about it, but I believe the conversations have been made with the Georgia's Capitol Museum. We will do nothing unless it's approved by the Georgia's Capitol Museum.
And you're not looking for any state funds. You're looking to raise outside funds to.
Yes, sir. All outside funds. If you see on line 12, it says may and not shall. And it says also upon funds being made available, and there may be a civil rights museum. So first of all, we have to raise the funds, and then it has to be approved by the Civil Rights Museum. I mean, by the Georgia's Capitol Museum. So is no urging, no shall, just a way to pay tribute.
Okay.
If they deem appropriate.
Now we're soon to have a National Civil Rights Museum.
Yes,
not too far from the Capitol, actually.
yes, sir.
I would imagine that what you all have envisioned may be something that we'll see in that National Museum as well. You want to talk to me a little bit about the importance of having both? And I'm giving you the opportunity to talk about it. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying there's no need because of, but talk to me a little bit about the importance of how they can coordinate together, work together with the National Civil Rights Museum and the one here on Capitol Hill.
You know, we also have a state civil rights museum located in God's country. I'm sorry, for you who don't know, that's Savannah, Georgia. The Ralph Gifford Martin.
I thought that was Northwest Georgia Mountains. I've been confused about that,
Yes, sir, Mr.
Senator.
Yes, sir.
But I do enjoy Savannah when I come down there.
The Ralph Gifford Martin is the state's historic civil rights museum, meaning that it was the first civil rights museum that's established. There's also a civil rights museum located in Albany, Georgia. Now, the National Civil Rights Museum, when finished, will probably be recognized as the state's official civil rights museum, where it pays tribute not only to all national figures, but have a wing dedicated to state and regional leaders too. So what we envision is this will be a part of the tour spot. As they tour the National Museum and go through the state, they also would come down and pay tribute to Georgia's recognition of the civil rights era and those leaders.
Okay.
So what we envision is, as they go there, they'll also get on the bus and make a stop here at the Capitol and tour the Capitol and look at look at Georgia's history as a truly capital, and Georgia's history is also represented in our civil rights struggle.
Okay. Members? Representative Hill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you very much for bringing this bill and speaking on behalf of Senator Jones. I'm a little bit confused, if I may, because we had talked about a museum at first, and then the discussion switched to doing monuments or something like that. So I'm trying to clarify which we have, because I do believe, in fact, I know that we have a Capital Arts Standard Commission, which is charged with the all artwork, including statues, etc., on Capitol Hill and the surrounding properties, and they're charged with looking at which ones will be on and where they'll be placed, etc. But that is a commission, a standing commission that's been about 6 years, if I remember right. So as to monuments and all that is a total blanket that covers this. And so are we talking about monuments, or are we talking about a museum? I guess that's what I've got a lot of confusion here.
We're actually talking about a plot that already exists that recognize the struggles of African Americans in Georgia, and we're talking about adding to that plot monuments or recognitions of the civil rights struggle around the plot as it recognized recognized famous African Americans in Georgia. Now, what I determine a monument and difference is a museum is a collection of several pieces versus one piece. So what we may have is one monument this year, and 5 years later they may put up another monument, because we probably couldn't afford to put up several pieces at one time. But if we say one piece, that means it's just a monument. But if we're talking about two pieces, it's a museum. Mm-hmm. Because there may be more than one. We don't want to limit to just one artifact. We want to be inclusive, so we may have a monument of Martin Luther King, and then have one of Joseph Lowery, and then there might be somebody else we want to recognize as being in the civil rights struggle.
Okay, and you say there is a plot? Is there a location today?
Right.
Where is that? I guess I'm trying
to get my boundaries, because I like to use.
I didn't know there was an existing plot.
It's on Capitol Avenue, facing the parking lot. It is beneath a huge oak tree, but it's nothing but oak trees. But it's facing Capitol Avenue. In fact, on it is a plaque that lists the first African American legislators on there. There's also a plaque that that represents a replica of African American struggles in Georgia. And I'm trying to describe what it looks like, but it looks like a lot of little people all around a big world.
Okay, because if it's actually on the Capitol Arts ground, it is under the authority today of the Capitol Arts Standard Commission, which was established just for all the artworks, monuments, etc. on everything on the Capitol property and everything on here. So this would have to, by existing law, follow under that commission. And I wonder if we looked at that and this has been brought before that commission and to see how it fits. I'm trying to figure out how everything fits together in one.
It says it can be inside or outside our gold dome. So what line? There's a line in here that said the monument that the museum can exist in. 13. It may be located within or outside the Capitol building.
No, I understand, but the Capitol Arts Standard Commission, and I don't have the paperwork with me, but it covers everything on Capitol Hill and its properties and artwork, so it covers inside and outside and everything. And that's why I was trying to see how this fits and if it's been brought before that existing commission.
But I understand all of that also falls under the Georgia Capitol Museum also. It's to my understanding. It has to be, everything that's erected has to be approved by the Georgia's Capitol Museum.
I don't know about that, but I do know that this commission exists, and it exists by law to cover all of this, and all the properties on here. So exactly how the museum fits under that, I don't know, but we haven't changed the law since the time that the commission was created. So that's my question. It seems that we already have an existing commission. Does this fit within its parameters?
Chairman Hill, Chairman Hill, to my knowledge, the commission approves everything that's presented by the Georgia Capitol Museum. If the Georgia Capitol Museum approves a project, then it goes before the commission before it's established. So we want to work with the Georgia Capitol Museum to find a spot, find something that's fitting, and then it goes before the commission. In crafting of this language, we saw nothing necessary to talk about, bringing it before the commission, because we have to first cover the Georgia Capitol Museum and get their approval before we can move it forward. Because the Georgia Capitol Museum erects nothing unless the commission approves it.
I understand.
Yes, sir.
But I don't know if that fits within legislation other than just a request to the commission. I'm trying to figure out what we're doing in legislation rather than just a request to the commission for approval, which is how everything else has been approved without. It may have been recommended as a resolution for a presentation in front of the commission, which is normally how art pieces or any type of monuments, etc., have been brought to the commission. It's through a resolution from either the House or the Senate. So I'm just trying to figure out how this fits into the whole puzzle. And I don't know the answer. I'm asking the question, but I don't know the answers. I'm not being, anything. I just know that this exists. I wanted to see if the whole thing has been brought before the commission and the museum under existing laws and commissions.
Does Lay Council have an opinion or knowledge of that?
No, Mr. Chairman, I did not draft this legislation. I would have to look at
Can you grab a microphone and turn it on there for me, Ms. Long?
Right off.
Mr. Chairman, I would have to review the statutes to see the interplay between the Capital Arts Standards Commission and the Georgia Capitol Museum. I'm just not familiar enough to speak off the top of my head, and whether or not general legislation is necessary or whether or not it could be done by resolution. These issues would really require further research.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Representative Shelkins?
That was my question. I remember when, excuse me. That was my question. I remember when the Capital Arts Commission was created, and so I was just asking the same question, and to find out. And actually, when we leave the committee meeting, I'm going to walk around and take a look at the existing plot. Now,
I started to suggest a field trip.
Thank you.
Jones?
And I'm not sure, and I'm sure the answer to those questions will be very good regarding how the commission works, but I know being closer to a layperson than a representative, since I'm still so new, for many people in Georgia, I think by having it passed as legislation, by having it on our books as law rather than just go through a commission to decide it in ways that people don't see it, I think it would mean a lot to the residents of the state. It makes it have some solidarity and importance in meeting when we put it in legislation. So whether it needs to go through the commission or not, I would hope that we can find some way to make this as a general bill.
You're welcome. Other members? Go ahead, Dan. Representative Butler.
I don't think that there's a question about not having the bill, but if we're going to put it in legislation and it needs to go to the Capitol Art Standards Commission as a subdivision of the Georgia Capitol Museum. It would be, I'd rather have all that in there and cover all the bases and know that we've done what we need to do to make it correct than to leave it out. So if it's necessary, we may need to check and see if it's necessary to put that in there rather than have it under the Georgia Capitol Museum and not have what we need. If that's, you understand what I'm saying? I know you don't think it's necessary, but there's so many questions, we're going to have to get the questions answered. So if we get them answered and it's necessary to put it in there, that would make it safer for us to
If I may, Madam
have
Chair.
it covered.
I mean, Mr. Chair, Representative Buckner, I understand your reservation. All we're asking is the same way the Georgia Capitol Museum approved projects and work projects through the process. We want the Civil Rights Museum to be a part of the same framework as the Georgia Capitol Museum. So if they have to go through the commission, so will the Civil Rights Museum have to go through the same process. We don't want to do anything different, anything special. We just want to abide by the same privileges as the Georgia Capitol Museum, and as they go through the procedure, so will the Civil Rights Museum through this process. But the importance of legislation is creating substance, to pay tribute, and doing it by an act or resolution doesn't pay tribute to these great pioneers of justice. So this is just putting on the books that we recognize the struggles during the Civil Rights era. We recognize the works of John Lewis, of Martin Luther King, Coretta Scott King, and at the appropriate time, we as a state will pay tribute.
May I follow up?
Yes.
That's the question of putting it in law. The question of honoring these people is not a question. My point is that if it's necessary and needed for us to put the words Capitol Art Standard Commission in this bill somewhere to protect it so that it can go through all the necessary hoops that are required for it to happen, I'd rather have those words in here than not. That was my point. I wouldn't want to be too strident about keeping it the Georgia Capitol Museum and not put those words in there and risk not getting it. Not getting the bill or not getting the statue or whatever we want. And the other question I had, I have confusion in my mind if we're talking about statues and our museum, and if we're talking about statues and museums, and if we're talking about statues, does that need to be in here? Because that was confusing to me. When you were talking about putting a statue outside, I understood your description of how if you put 3, it becomes a museum. I just didn't realize that was the definition.
Well, right. A museum, as I understand it, is a collection of historical documents. And if you just put one statue, that limits you. So a museum is just a collection, or can be a collection, or it can just be one object. Okay.
My one final question. You're sure the folks in Savannah aren't...
Is this the final question?
This is my final. This is the final question for me. You're sure the folks in Savannah aren't going to come up here and give us a hard time? I remember working on a Civil Rights Museum legislation before this committee a few years ago, and Savannah filled the room saying, we've got the Civil Rights Museum in the state. Do you remember that, Terry? I don't want to get in trouble with Savannah again. I like to go down there.
Well, Madam Representative, I will tell you, when the Atlanta National Museum asked for a state museum, it's going to be a lot of happy folks. You're going to see those same folks again. Okay? Yes. No. I mean, they're going to be happy to leave it the same. Right. No, man. Not this bill will not cause the controversy, but when the National Civil Rights Museum is completed, there will be some controversy about who will be recognized as the official state civil rights museum, because there's already been one established many years ago, and there may be one in Atlanta that may be a little bigger, a little more national known, and there would be a controversy, and we're ready to have that open and welcome debate.
Representative Hill.
And again, as I'll follow Representative Buckner say, the question is not honoring the people. They have done that. It is following procedures, and one of the things I'm always concerned about is having one law written that is in conflict with an existing law, and then we've created a boondoggle. So, my concern is that it fits in with the existing procedures and policies and commissions and laws that already are on the books today, and that we research that and make sure that it's done properly, so it would go forward properly.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Chairman Hill, is there an offer for a friendly amendment to add the commission to this existing language?
Yes, sir, absolutely. I think this should be looked at, perhaps, with the chairman's, what his wishes are, but I would believe it could be through an amendment or a substitute that would just make sure that it's properly worded so it covers the existing, whether it's a standard arts commission, which I believe is on top of the museum. So I think it's like a pyramidal thing as far as procedural, but I'm not sure, and I think we need to research the language so it's proper, and then I think could go forward under that auspices. Okay. Again, it's certainly the chairman's call on that.
Ms. Long.
Just a small legal technicality that lawyers like to point out. The bill doesn't specifically authorize the acceptance of private donations and the retention of these funds and the expenditures, and that concerns me because an entity cannot act outside its statutory defined authority. And while it may be implied if we're going to work with this bill, I would like to work with the expenditure aspects of it as well.
Thank you, Ms. Long. Senator, I'm going to have Tricia to come, and you're welcome to scoot over and make room for her, and y'all can share the table or whatever works best for you. And please use the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Tricia Chastain. I'm from the University of Georgia. So I thought you were referring to Athens when you said God's country, but you guys will remember a couple years ago, per legislation, you transferred the Capitol Museum to the university system, and because of that, it falls under the University of Georgia. Our librarian, Dr. Bill Potter, manages the Capitol Museum. Now, the way I understand it, and with these questions, I wish he was here because he could answer these questions. But his job is to manage the staff and maintain the exhibits. I don't believe he is in any way in charge of deciding what is on exhibit. So that has gone smoothly. It's going very well. We are happy to do it and enjoy the opportunity. And I'm certainly not here to speak for or against the bill. I think one thing that we want to make sure is clear is just the expectations and the legislative intent in terms of, frankly, how this thing will be maintained in terms of funding. I think the bill says upon funds being made available, and we just want to make sure it's clear that those funds are not expected to be made available through the university, or if they are, that such funds will be appropriated. So that's really the only thing that we want to make sure is clear in the legislation.
Anybody have any questions? Ms. Chastain.
Yes, sir. But there be a strong case that a museum or a monument would never be erected.
A small monument. I want everybody to have an opportunity to ask questions that they have, and I'm not going to cut the meeting shorter than you want it to be. I do think that we have questions we're not going to be able to answer today. So I want, when we wrap this thing up, I want Ms. Long and Representative Chokas, Representative Jones, and Representative Hill, would you mind as well? The three of you work with Ms. Long and Senator Jackson, and let's see if we can find language that addresses the fundraising, the expenditures, the capital arts, those questions that have come up. And I'll tell you, Senator Jackson, if we can put something together that satisfies that, we'll have a meeting tomorrow. I know we're running out of time, so we can't wait till my regular meetings are on Wednesdays. We can't wait till next Wednesday. So if we can come up with something, we've got to work quickly. We'll have to work quickly, and I guess it'll start with you doing some research. Would you like for us to send some food about 2 o'clock in the morning? Now, that being said, I'm not ending the meeting. If any of you have any further questions or comments, I welcome that. I just wanted you to kind of know where I feel like we probably need to go based on what we've heard at this point.
Senator Watts, Jackson, let me ask you a question just to get the picture here. We're talking about the oak tree that you mentioned. Are we looking at statues that are individual eventually for each person, or would we look at some type of monument where there would be plates on there for each person?
Mr. Chair, I don't want to, let me be perfectly honest, we're not looking at anything right now. We're looking at bringing recommendations to the commission, working with the state civil rights museum to talk about, and the Georgia Museum to talk about what's appropriate, what we can do if we have funds available. I mean, there is no idea of anything being built now. There's no conception. But we would like a place. What we want to do is make sure there's a place on Capitol grounds to pay tribute to civil rights leaders. Dr. Lowry is 92 years old now. He was a leader in the civil rights struggle, and there is a sense that we want to pay tribute to him while he's still alive. And that's why the idea came up. We're trying to find a way to pay tribute to Dr. Lowry and John Lewis while they're still with us. And we want to do it with some sort of figure on Capitol grounds. And whether it's one statue or monument that's paying tribute to all three or all four, maybe one idea. But there's also a thought that if other leaders may come up, there may be room to add to include other civil rights leaders. So I know I didn't answer the question, but the truth of the matter is there's no idea or no plan for any structure right now.
And Senator Jackson, I appreciate it. One of the things that I'm trying to visualize here is making sure we don't have 9 statues up around that tree eventually, or 10, to where I think a certain individual marble, I guess, fixture with plaques, or I don't know really what to say, but to where it would look very nice and people would come up and look at it. And I understand that y'all are just trying to get the ball rolling, right, and then go from there.
To be honest with you, what they're looking at is probably getting a piece of marble,
yes, sir,
and carve all their figures in on one piece of marble. That is the one idea that almost everybody agreed with. But and once again, that could change. So I didn't want to come to this is what we're going to do, because whatever we do has to be approved by the Capitol Museum. So whatever our ideal is subject to approval or go back and revisit it. But they're looking at maybe one marble piece and have everybody face ingrained on the slab of marble.
Thank you, sir.
Does anybody know what kind of specs or qualifications the Capitol Commission uses? And yeah,
Mr. Chairman, they have a published They've got a published specification of everything they accept. I mean, I don't have it, I was just getting ready to go online and see if I could find it, but they do have a public specification, and then they have an acceptance. They look at everything that's supposed to be on the Capitol grounds, and it's got to meet a certain criteria as far as the quality so it won't fall apart in 20 years, and it's got to be funded with something that'll actually cover that maintenance in perpetuity. And it's a whole list of criteria, and then it goes in front of the commission, and they look at it, and they either approve or disapprove, or say, well, it needs to be looked at and done something else to. So that's what I said. That's why when I first heard the word museum, I think of a building that's going to be somewhere. But if we're talking artwork or statues or of any kind, then we already have the commission that's already got that criteria. So that's the difference. I thought at first, oh, that's easy. It's a museum. And to me, the museum is that old Coca-Cola building that's been purchased by the state, and I thought that was going to be the Georgia State Museum. So that's why I had that confusion of where we were going here at first.
Right. And what happens is that, and simply put, it's not about a structure. It's not about guidelines to do something. It's like they would like the Civil Rights Museum to fall under the same under the umbrella of the Georgia Capitol Museum.
In a nutshell, you would like authority for a division of the Capitol Museum to work on some civil rights monuments, displays, and the funding mechanisms to be able to come up with the funds to do so.
That's right. Nothing about a commission to approve the site, just that they look at they look at a civil rights piece also, and that's it. So it's not about a commission. It's just that they look at a civil rights piece also.
Okay. I think the subcommittee has their charge. We've got a fairly lengthy calendar tomorrow, and so does the Senate. I noticed the Senate put 16 bills on today.
You're welcome, sir.
I think we have more than 16 Senate bills, though, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow. Huh? Yeah. So tomorrow we're going to be here a while tomorrow. So that gives the subcommittee an opportunity to work tomorrow as well. As soon as you all feel like you have something that we can work with, let me know. Let me know when you think you're getting there. If it looks like we're going to be able to, so we can get an announcement out that we're going to. What we'll try to do is meet on adjournment, maybe if it looks like we're going to get something. Okay, and Senator, I'll let you know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming back to the House, even if it was just for a committee meeting.
It's home.
Well, let's see. You sat right over my right shoulder, if I remember correctly, for your time in the House.
8 years.
Well,
so it's good to be back home.
Well, we hope you're over there trying to fix some things in the Senate since we trained you and sent you over there.
well, I'll leave you with this. Since I left, the IQ of both chambers went up.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, members of the committee. I'm going to adjourn with that one.